I'm Randy Reed, editor of the Edison Report, and we are in Washington today for the third annual forum of the National Lighting Bureau Board of Directors. Our topic now is specifying high benefit lighting and the problems with LEDs. I'm joined by our panel, Howard Lewis of the Viscor Group representing the IES, Brooke Silber of Jan and Brooke Lumini, Janet Lennox Moyer with the International Landscape Lighting Institute, Mark Lean of Osram, Slovenia, and Jim Yorgi of Lutron. Welcome. So our first question, Mark, is going to go to you.
Okay.
LED offers a new light source to architectural lighting. We've all heard that LEDs are energy efficient and have a long life. What are some of the other benefits of LEDs?
And Randy, as you know, the panel agreed that we should start out on a very positive note, since this panel was titled The Problems with LEDs, and we certainly will go south in a moment. But first of all, there are some things that they offer, and that's obviously why they've accelerated into the marketplace over the last decade at an unprecedented rate for a new light source. In addition to the energy efficiency, of course, they came into play in this last decade during an energy crisis. With the potential of giving us enormous energy savings, which they're realizing at this point. In addition to that, we have the ability to do some remarkable color tuning. Dimming, although, as I'm sure Jim will share with us, there may be an issue or two there. Instant on and off, no restripe time for the exterior lighting, which is huge for a light source that is now giving us the light levels that we need outside, and much greater optical control because it's a discrete individual source. So we're able to optically control multiple chips in the same fixture in many cases, and where it's applicable, very high uniformity levels.
In landscape lighting, we have a couple of other benefits that are tools that we've never had before. And the first one is individual output tuning a fixture so that we can actually create exactly the right light variation on an individual element like a tree or all the way across the scene. And we're also starting to see manufacturers that are including beam spread variation within one fixture, so you don't have to change optics to change the beam spread. That's amazing.
Howard, why don't you take a minute and kind of explain the specification process for LEDs?
Well, the specification process for LEDs is really the same as it would be for fluorescent or any other project, whether it be a hospital, school, or whatever. Imagine that the architect and engineering firm or firms are hired for the project. They specify lighting fixtures and a schedule is created. Budgets and submittals are created and eventually get approved. The contractor is awarded the job and places an order with a distributor who will then place the order with the factory. Now here's where things might go astray a little bit. The factory responds with a note saying that certain configurations are no longer available because this was specified and quoted 18 months ago. So that becomes a real issue now. The fixture itself, the housing of the fixture and so forth might be fine. The distributions might be fine, but the lumen packages may have changed dramatically. We find that to be the case quite often now because of the fact that as the LED technology evolves, obviously lumen packages are going up, and the things that can really change within the fixture itself is that as you try to maintain lumen packages, you may sometimes change the spacing on the chip, let's say. So by changing the spacing on the chip, and this particular, maybe an architectural troffer, let's say what may happen is where you had 0 pixelation before and you had the proper lumen packages, now to maintain the original lumen package and you're spacing out your chips, what basically happens is now you have pixelation and you have things that are going on in the fixture that an architect is not going to be very pleased with. So the problems kind of start and then go on from there because, okay, so what do? Do you resubmit? Come up with a different fixture? Do you try to tune the fixture? Again, there is a lot of tuning, has been mentioned here many times, where you can actually, with today's technology, they have technology now where you can actually take a wand, okay, and you can actually wave it over the fixture and it actually will adjust the driver's output so that you can actually tune the driver to the lumen package that you need on the certain chipboard that is on the actual fixture. So again, this creates issues where, as far as if you do have to resubmit, who's going to handle the cost of that resubmittal? It's going to get passed to somebody, and it becomes a real big issue. And it's been happening quite a bit recently, where it's kind of reared its ugly head, more so within the last, for me anyways, the last 3 to 6 months, where it wasn't something that we kind of thought of before. It was just like everybody was just kind of going, and specifications are going smoothly, jobs were going along, but some of these jobs that take much longer to come to fruition, that's where it really starts to rear its ugly head.
Jan?
Yeah, there's a couple of other issues. If this happens, it causes a delay in the project construction, and that's money to the client. So that makes the client unhappy, and we've all got to deal with that. The other thing that Howard was talking about is the minute a fixture's not available, the lighting designer, whomever the lighting designer was, spent time thinking about how the space is going to look when it's lit. And with a new product being required, it may or may not be possible, and it may affect other fixtures on the project. So it's got to go all the way back to the original designer, and that takes additional time. And nobody's paying the designer to do that at this point.
And I would just add or ask, I assume when you go back to the client and say, some of these fixtures are no longer available, we're going to have to resubmit, they're going to blame you. You're the expert. Why did you specify a fixture that's no longer available?
That's right.
It's very difficult when you get a client that says to you, but you are the expert. You're supposed to know this. With the amount of research that you've done in the initial phases, you've spent several hours making sure that you've got it, this color temperature, this CRI, this lumen package, this beam distribution, it matches all of the other fixtures. Now one fixture's out of place and they're thinking that you can control it. You can't control it because these manufacturers, each one of them are changing it. You can't be an expert at that moment by moment basis.
The rate of change right now is too fast.
Yes.
Could you
Mark?
write it into a specification that the manufacturer that accepts this bid is conditional that those products be available in 24 months, exactly as specified? I mean, that would limit the bidders.
Well, but it's also the fact that it's at the time that it's gone to bid, it's no longer available. So it's not even
That's true too.
Right.
it's not even that the manufacturer can do that because it's too late. Unless we pre-qualify, maybe we change our whole design process and pre-qualify every fixture on the project and get that for them to say, yes, I'll keep that available for 2 years.
The minute you do that, you also, in decreasing the bidder or the manufacturer, you've increased your cost to your client. And your client's going to look at you and say, well, this one's cheaper. Why can't I go with that? And you're in a conundrum because you're in the middle of construction with the guy standing there with, his tools going, what do you want me to install, guys?
Now, Brooke, you've increased the cost on the front end, probably less than you would on the back end, though.
It's true.
Yes, but you've got to still explain that to your client, and you've got to have a very technology savvy client to appreciate that very perspective that we're in at this time frame in LEDs.
And maybe we do it on camera, because I think what I'm going to do is take his question, which is a bit controversial, is our specification system antiquated? And we'll take that and roll with it. Okay?
Thanks.
So as we talk about the specification system, which we have historically used, is that system antiquated?
So what you're talking about is, could we, instead of specifying a fixture, a whole system, all the way from the lamps to the fixtures to the dimming to the wiring, the installation, all of that, ahead of time before construction, should we wait till construction starts and then find the products that are available that would work? And that sounds like an easy answer, and it may be the way we have to go, but it takes a lot of time to design a lighting system for a building. And we need to have products available for the contractors to install at the right time during the sequence of construction. So can we do it in that time frame?
Jan, to follow up, I think it's very difficult. We work on projects where sometimes these guys want it built in a very short period of time. and you can't even get the fixtures there to the site in that period of time. So you're asking to change everybody's mentality, from the person who's trusting you to make sure that it's going to be there on site, okay, and in budget, 2 years in advance, having a construction time frame that ends up being like a ridiculous 6 months time frame in which the fixtures have to be there at this very specific time. And are we going to be given a week to actually specify it?
And you can't wait till that last minute for lighting, because lighting becomes last place. And in those project meetings early on, you know that you're sitting with an acoustical tile person, and you're sitting with somebody who's doing the facade and the cove. HVAC, that's absolutely right. And you've got to be able to have some priority early on to say the lighting needs to be here, and they need to work around you.
Yep.
You wait till the end, you're stuck.
You're stuck.
It's not possible.
I guess one of the questions is, does our move to the BIM type of design process using 3D modeling and that sort of thing that allows us to look at the physical position of the HVAC duct versus the lighting fixture and those things, are we moving fast enough in that direction? Will that allow us to move faster?
You know what BIM will do, though? This is what I've talked to the people at Autodesk about this, is they feel that it will take away the specification process as we know it, because you can't have, 3 names on the spec anymore, or equal, because BIM is so specific that it's going to be written about around a specific product.
So I'm not familiar with BIM, and our audience may not be.
Building information modeling,
Okay.
which the software most popular for it would be Revit.
Okay.
And it takes an enormous amount of data from each of the products in the building, not just lighting, but the other products as well, and is able to utilize that data so that you can see in real time in 3D where the conflicts that exist in a project before you build it. So you're on the front end, you're eliminating a lot of those problems that are very expensive at the back end of the building design.
So when we look at issues with LED, we talk about the specification process, and that many times the product may not be available. We talk about the wiring and having to instruct and teach the contractor how to wire. How to install. We talk about education. What are other issues that LEDs have brought to us? Other problems that we need to solve?
Well, one of the problems that we've touched on a little bit is premature failures. And we're seeing premature failures, I believe, partially because this industry is moving too fast. And if you just look at the one handout that I've given you, this spreadsheet, it already shows, just in the last year, 2 manufacturers of LED replacement lamps are no longer available. One stopped this June, one stopped last year, and another one that's not even listed on here has just announced this week or last week that they're going to stop manufacturing as well. And none of these manufacturers are what we considered the big manufacturers of light sources from before. So we're just inundated with new products and constant change and constant things going off the market, and then on top of that, these failures.
Okay, Jim?
One of the things we've brought up dimming, and of course the issue of dimming LEDs, yes, they can be dimmed easily, but there are issues that if not done right, there's the flicker that's been talked about in an environment like we're in right now, video cameras and things. If I'm using the wrong type of LED drivers, I'm going to have flicker in the video signal. So I have to be more careful about what drivers I use. In terms of dimming, there are multiple ways we dim LEDs today, whether it's using standard dimmers that we find in everybody's home, to using commercially products that use either the 0 to 10 volt protocol, which is probably the primary protocol we see today, the emerging of digital protocols, DALI and related type of digital control. Those things are coming commercially, but adoption is slow. It'll help once again as we transition and everyone's involved is aware of how to deal with those technologies. but the use in the residence of standard dimmers, because there's millions and millions of dimmers out there, and people want to replace their LED lamps. You know, I was at a Home Depot recently where an older woman was at the display looking at the LED products, their lamps to buy, and I was going to the plumbing aisle at the time, but I walked by and she had a couple LED bulbs in her basket. I came back sometime later and she had, in my opinion, she was going to replace all the bulbs in her house with LEDs, and I'm hoping she bought the right bulbs that'll work with the right dimmers, because that's certainly an issue today. But there are standards. SSL 7A, for instance, is one of those standards that the promise is that it'll allow things to be compatible, but that's not fully implemented yet. So we need those standards to come along.
That's an interesting point, Jim. We had a couple of projects with a client where they were very concerned over these wireless technologies because they themselves had a lot of wireless technologies in their facility. So they were concerned about the interference that would be caused. And it can be very difficult to make sure that you're, again, I'm a lighting designer. I'm not versed in wireless technologies to be able to comfort them on whether there's interference or not. And so you're, again, bringing together a whole different group of specialties and specialists to make sure that those problems aren't going to be exacerbated, that you're not putting in a technology that's going to create further issues down the line. And you're required to be on the ball, Johnny on the spot right there.